It has been about 2 weeks since I made my last video, and that is because I have been spending a lot of time with the love of my life. Diablo 2. There it is. There is the ding. I went hard this past season, recently got level 97, although I've been getting a lot of questions on stream. Why am I using a slow offhand while tanking? One viewer in particular, Ferris from the guild Nourish, has been hounding me on my DMs in Discord. They ask, should they also use a slow offhand like I am? As always, the answer is it depends. First, I will explain the benefits of a slow offhand, and then I will go over all of the different scenarios that may make it a good choice or a bad choice for you to do. Finally, we will look at the logs of the top DPS warriors, and we will look at what is the tank in that raid wearing to hold threat off of those animals. First of all, the idea that a slow offhand is good for tanking is that it will consume less flurry charges, therefore increasing your flurry uptime. On the flip side, a fast offhand hits more often and it just has more opportunities to get a crit. What a slow offhand definitely does is it consumes less of the enraged charges. You see, a boss has a 5% chance when hitting you to crit. When you're crit, you have an enraged proc 12 hits or 12 seconds of 25% more damage. So we want to be able to do those 12 hits before the 12 seconds happens, but we want as many of those hits to be for the main hand and for bloodthirsts, not a weak offhand. Based on that information, let's discuss if tanking with a slow offhand is the right thing for you to do. We need to keep in mind, what phase of the game are we even in? As in, what weapons are available? And what weapons do you currently have? You know, Gressel and THC might be out there, but maybe you're in Dalrans, right? What race are you? Do you have a Thunder Fury? Do other tanks in the raid have a Thunder Fury? And are you world buffed? These are things we have to consider. Right now on Anniversary, we're in Phase 4, although we will also look at some logs from Classic Era, which is in permanent Phase 6. Let's just use myself as an example. I have Thunder Fury. It's a medium 1.9 speed weapon. It's not quite fast, it's not quite slow. It's a weird speed. I have the rank 14 weapons, like many, so I have the 2.9 speed and the 1.8 speed. And we know we always want to have a fast main hand. Ideally. Means more heroic strikes. But for me, the 1.8 quick blade in the main hand, it doesn't feel like it's that much better than Thunder Fury. 59 DPS Grand Marshal, High Warlord rank 14 versus 54 DPS Thunder Fury that also has the proc. The proc does decent threat, but it doesn't just make you suddenly threat god X by any means. The main benefit of Thunder Fury is that it slows the enemies, right? It slows their attack. It's a damage mitigation for the tanks in the raid. Eventually, the main tank doesn't even need to wear Thunder Fury if other people, even rogues in the raid, have it. If you get unlucky procs, Thunder Fury kind of sucks. It's nice if you get these back-to-back procs in the opener, but we will discuss why sometimes you're going to see that Thunder Fury is not the end-all be-all and why some tanks don't use it, even if they have it. Though it does look cool, doesn't it? So anyways, right now I am main-handing Thunder Fury for slightly better procs, because it will also proc off Bloodthirst, Revenge, and Sunder. If you're using Improved Exposed Armor, now you can't Sunder, so that could affect the procs. I'll make a Battle Shout tanking video later. You do get procs with it in the offhand, but it's less. Not by a huge margin, but it is less. When AQ40 comes out, there are two weapons that start to look very nice to main hand instead of Thunder Fury. Pugio and Death Sting. Pugio is 60 DPS. and it boasts a 1.7 speed. It's a fantastic main hand weapon. And Death Sting is 66 DPS. That's par with a lot of the early Nax weapons. 66 DPS Death Sting, 54 DPS Thunder Fury. We're starting to get a gap. In AQ40, I will look to main hand, Death Sting, and offhand Thunder Fury. Now, if you do not have a Thunder Fury, the best tank weapons that you can get in Phase 5 will be main hand Death Sting, offhand Pugio, with the H-Core leather gloves. Even as a human, if you don't have Thunder Fury, that's what you want to use. If you are a human, you're going to probably still main hand Thunder Fury and offhand the Quick Blade. And if you're a Thunder Fury wielding non-human, you're going to probably main hand a strong dagger, although you might experiment and prefer main hand Thunder Fury still, and offhand the Pugio or something. The differences, people, they're so minor. So don't get lost in the weeds here. They're so minor. Try them out, see what you like. But I'm not going to use a slow offhand in AQ40 because one of my weapons is going to be Thunder Fury, and one of them is going to be Pugio or Death Sting. Straight up, you're going to use the best weapons you can get your hands on. And so no longer is the 2.9 speed the best. Now maybe if there was like a 2.9 speed 65 DPS weapon, I would consider offhanding that and then mainhanding the Thunder Fury. Maybe. I don't know. Who knows? It depends. Still, mainhanding the highest DPS weapon you can is the best, as long as it's fast. Now, when we get into Nax as a tank, you're not going to get Gressel on Anniversary, I hope. Unless you're in like some corrupt Loot Council guild, you should definitely get Prio as a tank on THC, however. You see, not until you played Classic, such as on Era, for many years, do warriors as tanks have kind of the opportunity to get Gressel. On Classic Era, both of my tanks have Thunder Fury, they both have Gressel, and my main has THC. I'm a dwarf, so I always main hand the THC for the weapon skill in case I use a shield. I offhand my Thunder Furies in most raids to apply the debuff. But if I'm in a raid that there's multiple Thunder Furies and I'm world buffed, I will probably do King's Fall Gressel on my Edgemaster warrior and THC Gressel on my THC warrior. And not use Thunder Fury if I'm world buffed and there's multiple Thunder Furies in the raid. I think that when I'm not world buffed, it kind of feels clunky to have a slow offhand. You get one parry, dodge, miss with the offhand, and it just grinds to a halt. So now let's take a look at logs of the top DPS warriors. You see tank logs, they are not indicative of skill. If you see a tank in the top 5, they're probably doing some cheesy things. Sure, get a 98-99 for just doing high damage, which is going to be high threat, but oftentimes the top parser is going to be doing cheesy things, executing, that kind of stuff. But by looking at the high DPS warriors and what are the tanks doing for those strong DPS warriors, it might give us a clearer picture of gearing. Just keep in mind, strong guilds have strong healers, means that the tanks might gear more aggressively than your guild, and your healers would be able to do so, and you might die in your raid. Because, and I'll quote Shreds on this one,
So the tanks die because the fucking healers suck dick.
So make sure your gear choices as a tank are suitable and in line with what your raid is capable of. Let's look at the logs. We're going to look at Valish draws on current fresh, because that's like a Zerg fight. Then we're going to look at Maxina and Saffron Polarity on Classic Era, where people are very geared. And we'll look at Horde and Alliance, and let's do it. So this is Valish draws on fresh. This is the tank who is tanking against the #1 DPS warrior on this fight. It's a lot of the gear that I'll often wear. We see Thunder Fury main hand, slow offhand. Most of the stuff that they're using I have. They have a different cloak and gun than me because I just don't have those. But yeah, pretty standard stuff. This is on Maxina. Now, I think it's ironic. The tank here, they accidentally put on the wrong trinket. They put on a threat reduction trinket. Now, surely they didn't use this, but reduces threat you generate by 35%. That's not something a tank wants. That's what a DPS warrior wants. And on Horde, all of the warriors want one of those 2 threat reduction trinkets because it's so important for them. But anyways, he's got a dagger helmet for weapon skill, and then 2 daggers, and a mix of, you got like Goas and tier 2, tier 2.5. This is another Mexina. This is Horde. This is a very aggressive setup where we have THC Thunder Fury, and then literally every item slot is DPS gear, pretty much. Very aggressive. They happened to take number 2 tank Parse. It was like 1800 DPS, but you don't have to try to tank parse. Tank parsing is very cheesy. It requires you quite often to switch to battle stance and execute. So we shouldn't be trying to emulate tank parses. You just got to hold threat and stay alive. That is the job of the tank. And to try to tank parse, if you happen to tank, get a parse, whatever, cool. But if you're like trying to parse, that's just goofy. It's not the mark of a good tank. Here's another Horde Mexina. You can see that this person's got 4-piece tier 3. Then they have some tier 2.5. THC main hand, Thunder Fury offhand. They're using Slayers and Kiss. So they're probably what I would do, because the boss is going to die in less than 30 seconds. Kiss lasts for 15 and Slayers is for 20. So what I would personally do is I would probably pop Slayers as I'm running in, and maybe I'll get 10 seconds of Slayers, and then I'll pop Kiss so that I have 10 seconds of Slayers, 15 seconds of Kiss for like that 25-second fight. This is a Alliance raid. You can see that they're main handing Thunder Fury. They have agility on it. The reason they're using agility is because on Classic Era, if you have Double Crusader, it could push off like Mongoose and things like that. They have their 2-piece Field Marshal, one of my favorite 2 pieces, but other than a 2-piece bathing suit. Again, they have movement speed on the boot. It should be 7 agility, so they should have chromatic boots and using the rank 13 legs. So if they use the rank 13 legs, sorry, rank 12 legs, well, they're world buffed. Now you can use your chromatic boots with agility, and you essentially gain 8 agility plus the 7 enchant, so 15 agility. Yeah, that's what I would do. But you can see their main hand Thunder Fury as an alliance. They care more maybe about the procs of Thunder Fury than threat generation, although they are using threat oriented gear. Then we're gonna look at Saffron. So I picked some of these different Saffron parses, and the fights are lasting about 20 seconds or less. So here is Horde, and they're using Dreadnought. They're offhanding Gressel, main hand THC. They might not have Thunder Fury. We don't know. I don't know this person. But you can see they're using a mix of tanky stuff and more threat-oriented stuff. Here's another one. Gressel offhand, main hand Thunder Fury. This is a Horde. This is another Horde raid. You see the Wind Fury Totem. Horde. A lot of tier 3 and tier 2.5. Here we have, of course, Alliance player using THC and Iblis offhand, so 2 fast weapons. I don't think this person has a Thunder Fury. If they did, they would probably offhand it. And they definitely don't have Gressel, because if they did, they'd be offhanding it. So you can see they're using, their rank 13 shoulders and rank 12 legs with the chromatic boots with the 7 agility, just like I was talking about. Finally, somebody gets it. It's because they're from 5 Centers Please, and they're thinking about what they're doing instead of just putting on random stuff. Here is the tank from my guild, old guild, dead guild. This is what they're using. Now they don't have rank or gear because they're a pleb, and they like to stand in void zones. If that's not enough of a hint who this is. But you can see, Helm of Endless Rage, Storm Rage, Conquerors, Chromatic Boots, Wrist Guards of Vengeance, pure thready gear here, and THC Manhunt Thunder for your offhand. And then finally, here's another Alliance guild where they're using Gressel in the offhand. So just gives you an idea of what different people are doing on different fights. And at the end of the day, it all gets the job done, doesn't it? So press your buttons, use the best gear you can get your hands on. But honestly, they're so similar, probably doesn't matter. If you enjoyed the video, drop me a sub and a comment. Catch me live on my Twitch channel, Dwarf Lord TV, to connect with me or say hi to me in game on any of my characters. Dwarf Lord out.
And they say that the Dwarf Lord could save us. I'm not gonna pave here and wait. I'll hold on to the beard of the Dwarf Lord. Watch as we heroic leap away.